At the bottom of the abyss that fame and fortune could not fill, he was saved by an innocent gesture. A little girl pointed to a special friend, and in that boy he saw the features of the son he had lost years ago. If you were touched by this beautiful story of resilience and love, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Continuing. The Manhattan skyline gleamed in the afternoon sun as Jonathan "Jack" Whitman gazed out from his corner office on the 57th floor. At 52, he had achieved everything society deemed valuable: CEO of Whitman Innovations, a tech empire worth billions, a penthouse overlooking Central Park, and a name that commanded respect in boardrooms across America. The Wall Street Journal had called him the visionary who transformed the digital landscape. Forbes had him on their cover twice. His net worth hovered around $3 billion. Yet behind the polished exterior of success lurked a hollowness that money couldn't fill. Jack loosened his custom Italian tie and turned from the window. On his desk sat a framed photograph, a smiling boy with bright blue eyes and a gap-toothed grin, holding a baseball glove. Ethan, his son, missing for 7 years now. The memory of that day still haunted him. Ethan had been at a Little League game in Central Park. Jack had promised to attend but got caught in an emergency board meeting. By the time he arrived, 30 minutes late, Ethan was gone. Security footage showed a van, but the license plate was obscured. Despite the nationwide search, the FBI involvement, the $1 million reward and hiring the best private investigators, the trail went cold. The world eventually moved on to other tragedies, but Jack never did. His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Whitman, the SEC attorneys are here." Jack straightened his tie. "Send them in." The Securities and Exchange Commission investigation had begun 3 months ago. Anonymous tips claimed financial irregularities at Whitman Innovations, accounting manipulation, tax evasion, misappropriation of funds. The accusations were absurd. Jack had built this company on innovation and integrity. 2 stern-faced attorneys entered, followed by a digital forensics team. The lead investigator, Agent Barnes, handed Jack a document. "Mr. Whitman, we have a warrant to seize all financial records and digital assets. We're also freezing the company's primary accounts pending investigation." "This is ridiculous," Jack said, though his voice lacked its usual commanding tone. "We've cooperated fully, provided every document requested." "New evidence has emerged," Barnes replied, her expression unreadable. "The board has been informed. They're meeting now to discuss your temporary removal as CEO." The words hit like physical blows. "I've built this company from nothing. 25 years of my life." "Then you'll want this resolved quickly," Barnes said. "I suggest you call your attorney." Within hours, Jack's face was plastered across every financial news outlet. Tech titan faces fraud allegations. Whitman empire crumbling. SEC uncovers $1 billion scheme. His phone rang incessantly, board members, investors, reporters. The only call he answered came from his ex-wife, Rebecca. "I'm keeping Sophie away from the news," she said, referring to their 16-year-old daughter. Rebecca had divorced him 3 years after Ethan's disappearance, claiming Jack had become obsessed with finding their son at the expense of the family they still had. But her friends are texting her she's upset. "Tell her I'm innocent," Jack said, staring at the rain now pelting his windows. "Are you?" Rebecca asked, her voice tinged with the familiar coldness. "You know me better than that." "I thought I did. Once." She paused. "The judge granted my emergency petition this morning. Until this is resolved, your visitation with Sophie is suspended." The line went dead before he could respond. That night, Jack sat alone in his penthouse, the lights of the city blurring through the rain-streaked glass. His attorney had called with disturbing news. The evidence against him appeared substantial: falsified financial statements bearing his electronic signature, offshore accounts linked to his personal information, emails discussing tax evasion strategies that seemed to come from his account. "Someone set me up," Jack had insisted. "We'll fight this," his attorney promised, though his tone lacked conviction. 3 weeks later, Jack stood in his emptying Penthouse. The board had suspended him. His assets were frozen. The media had convicted him in the court of public opinion. Former friends and colleagues avoided him like a contagion. Even his doorman barely nodded when he passed. His attorney had advised selling the penthouse before it could be seized. Cut your losses, find somewhere low profile until we clear your name. Jack had scoffed. Clear his name. The evidence mounted. Daily. Someone with intimate knowledge of the company's systems had methodically constructed his downfall, and Jack had a growing suspicion who? Victor Reynolds, his CFO and supposed friend. The man had access to everything, technical knowledge and ambition that Jack had always admired but now feared, yet proving it seemed impossible. The movers took the last of his essential belongings, clothes, some books, personal items. The photograph of Ethan he tucked carefully into his coat pocket. "Where should we deliver these, Mr. Whitman?" the head mover asked. Jack realized he had nowhere to go. His attorney had rented him a modest apartment in Queens, but he couldn't face those bare walls yet. Keep them in storage for now. He took one last look at the home that had never really felt like one, then stepped into the elevator. Outside, rain fell in sheets. Jack walked aimlessly, barely noticing as Manhattan's gleaming towers gave way to the Brooklyn Bridge. By the time awareness returned, he found himself in a quiet Brooklyn neighborhood he didn't recognize. Brownstones lined the streets. Small businesses occupied ground floors, a bakery, a bookstore, a vintage clothing shop. His expensive shoes were soaked through, his tailored suit clinging uncomfortably. Night had fallen. Without destination or purpose, he sank onto a bench in a small neighborhood park, rain dripping from his hair. The world had crumbled beneath him, not once but twice. First Ethan, now this. He pulled out his wallet, finding the small newspaper clipping he always carried, Ethan's missing person notice, the photo now worn at the creases. 7 years of searching, of hope flaring and dying with each potential lead. 7 years of imagining his son growing up without him, or worse. "Are you sad?" The small voice startled him. Jack looked up to see a girl of about 9 standing. Before him, partially sheltered by a purple umbrella decorated with butterflies, she had curly dark hair and inquisitive brown eyes. "Children shouldn't talk to strangers," he said automatically. She tilted her head. "But you look really sad, like you might need someone to talk to." Despite everything, Jack felt the corner of his mouth twitch. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine," she said, with the brutal honesty of childhood. "You look like my friend Noah when she has bad dreams," she pointed across the park. "See, that's him over there." Jack followed her gesture, more to humor her than anything else. Through the curtain of rain, he could make out a boy around 10 years old, standing beneath a tree. Something about the way the child stood, shoulders slightly hunched, head tilted in concentration as he examined something in his hands, triggered a visceral recognition. Jack's breath caught. The boy turned slightly, his profile now visible. The same jawline, the same cowlick at the crown. Even from this distance, Jack could see the intense focus in the boy's expression, so familiar it made his heart constrict. "That's your friend?" Jack managed, his voice barely audible over the rain. "Noah," the girl confirmed. "He lives with Miss Olivia. She takes care of him." She studied Jack curiously. "Why are you crying? Is it because of the rain?" Jack hadn't realized tears had joined the raindrops on his face. He couldn't take his eyes off the boy. The resemblance was uncanny. The same age Ethan would be now, the same mannerisms. It had to be a cruel coincidence, a trick of his desperate mind, yet his heart hammered against his ribs. "Lily, what are you doing?" A woman hurried across the park, an umbrella clutched in one hand. She wore jeans and a green sweater, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. "Mom!" The girl, Lily, waved. "This man is sad. I was just checking if he's okay." The woman reached them, her expression a mixture of concern and wariness, as she took in Jack's expensive, sodden clothing and distressed state. "I'm sorry if she bothered you," she said, placing a protective hand on her daughter's shoulder. "She didn't," Jack replied, his voice hoarse. His eyes drifted back to the boy, who was now watching them curiously. The woman followed his gaze, her posture stiffening slightly. "Lily, go tell Noah it's time to head back. The rain's getting worse." As Lily ran off, the woman studied Jack more carefully. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" Jack wanted to say he was fine, to walk away from this park and these strangers, but his legs wouldn't move, his eyes fixed on the boy now walking toward them, holding Lily's umbrella over both their heads. With each step the child took, Jack felt the world tilting on its axis. "I don't know," he answered honestly, watching as the boy drew closer. "I really don't know anymore." Olivia Martinez had learned to trust her instincts. As a single mother running her own business in Brooklyn, intuition had guided her through countless decisions, including, 7 years ago, the choice to give a home to a traumatized boy found wandering alone in the city. Now those same instincts sent contradictory signals about the soaking wet man sitting on the park bench. His expensive suit and haunted eyes spoke of wealth and tragedy, an unusual combination in this modest neighborhood. Something about his fixation on Noah unsettled her, yet beneath her wariness compassion stirred. She recognized desperation when she saw it. "My flower shop is just across the street," she found herself saying, pointing to a charming storefront with a green awning. "Bloom and grow. We're about to close, but you could dry off there. Maybe have some coffee." The man, tall with salt and pepper hair and deep lines around his eyes that spoke of both laughter and sorrow, seemed to struggle with the offer. "I don't want to impose," he said, his voice cultured but strained. "It's not an imposition if it's an invitation," Olivia replied. She gestured to Noah and Lily, now waiting beneath the large oak tree. "We need to get these kids out of the rain anyway." They crossed the street together, an odd procession, Olivia leading the way, the children whispering behind her and the stranger following at a distance, as if uncertain of his welcome. The warm light of the flower shop spilled onto the wet sidewalk as Olivia unlocked the door. Inside, the space hummed with life. Plants filled every surface, delicate orchids, robust succulents, hanging ferns, and seasonal blooms arranged in artful displays. The air smelled of damp earth, greenery, and the faint sweetness of lilies. "It's beautiful," the man said softly, looking around with genuine appreciation. "Thank you." Olivia felt a flash of pride. The shop represented 8 years of hard work, starting with a sidewalk flower cart and expanding into this space through sheer determination. "The bathroom's through there if you want to dry off. I'll make coffee." While the stranger disappeared into the small bathroom, Olivia set the children up in the back room with hot chocolate and homework. Noah kept glancing toward the front of the shop. "Who is he?" he asked, his blue eyes serious. "Just someone caught in the rain," Olivia answered, ruffling his sandy brown hair. When she returned to the front, the man was examining a terrarium of miniature succulents. He'd removed his wetsuit jacket and attempted to dry his shirt with paper towels. Up close, Olivia noticed the fine quality of his clothing, the expensive watch on his wrist. "I'm Olivia Martinez," she said, extending her hand. "And you are?" He hesitated before taking her hand. Jack Whitman." The name sounded vaguely familiar, but Olivia couldn't place it. She handed him a steaming mug. "Black okay, I can add cream or sugar." "Black is perfect." He wrapped his hands around the mug, seeming to savor the warmth. "Thank you for this. It's been a difficult day." "I gathered that." Olivia busied herself tidying the counter. "Do you have somewhere to go tonight, Mr. Whitman?" The question hung in the air. Jack stared into his coffee. "My attorney rented an apartment for me in Queens. I haven't seen it." "Yet?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "You need an attorney to rent apartments." A bitter smile crossed his face. "It's complicated." "It usually is." She studied him, making a decision she hoped wouldn't prove foolish. "The couch in my office pulls out into a bed. It's not the Ritz, but it's dry and comfortable. You're welcome to it for tonight." Jack looked up, surprise evident in his expression. "You'd offer that to a complete stranger." "You don't strike me as dangerous," Olivia said, then added with a small smile, "Just lost. Besides, I keep a baseball bat behind the counter, and my neighbor upstairs is an off-duty police officer." I'm cautious, not reckless. For the first time, Jack laughed, a short, rusty sound as if long unused. Fair enough. Later, after the shop closed and the children were settled upstairs in the apartment Olivia maintained over the business, she brought Jack extra blankets and a pillow. The pull-out couch in her office was indeed comfortable, though hardly what someone of his apparent means would be accustomed to. I can't remember the last time someone showed me kindness without wanting something in return, Jack said quietly, sitting on the edge of the bed. Then you've been spending time with the wrong people, Olivia replied. Apparently so. He looked up at her. The boy, Noah. He reminds me of someone. Olivia tensed. Oh? My son. Jack pulled a worn photograph from his wallet. He disappeared 7 years ago. He'd be about Noah's age now. Olivia's heart rate quickened as she glanced at the photo. A younger version of Jack stood beside a small boy with sandy hair and bright blue eyes. The resemblance to Noah was undeniable. Sorry, she said carefully. That's every parent's nightmare. Jack tucked the photo away. We never found him, never stopped looking, but he trailed off, then looked at her intently. How long has Noah been with you? The question sent alarm bells ringing. 7 years, she said, watching his reaction. He was placed with me through the foster system. He'd been found wandering near Penn Station, traumatized, unable or unwilling to speak. No one claimed him. She paused. If you're suggesting... I'm not suggesting anything, Jack interrupted, though his eyes said otherwise. Just a strange coincidence. Very strange, Olivia agreed, suddenly eager to put distance between them. Good night, Mr. Whitman. Upstairs, Olivia checked on the sleeping children before pouring herself a glass of wine. She opened her laptop and typed Jack Whitman into the search bar. The results made her stomach drop. Tech CEO suspended amid fraud investigation. Whitman Innovations stock plummets as founder faces criminal charges. Fallen Titan, the unraveling of Jack Whitman's empire. The man sleeping in her shop was, or had been, a billionaire, now accused of massive financial crimes. And he thought Noah might be his missing son. Olivia closed the laptop, mind racing. She'd taken Noah in as a traumatized foster child with no known family. The social worker had explained that despite extensive efforts, they couldn't determine his identity. After 2 years of providing him a stable home, she'd been allowed to adopt him. Noah had become her son in every way that mattered. She thought of the boy sleeping peacefully down the hall, his nightmares, his initial silence, the slow process of winning his trust. She thought of his first words to her, his first smile, teaching him to tend the flowers, watching him grow into a thoughtful, sensitive child who loved baseball and had his father's eyes. His father's eyes. The thought landed with terrifying implications. Downstairs, Jack lay awake on the pull-out couch, surrounded by the scent of flowers and soil. For the first time in years, the constant noise in his head, strategies, stock prices, the endless search for his son, had quieted. In its place was a single persistent thought. Noah's eyes were Ethan's eyes. Morning light filtered through the shop's front windows when Jack woke. For a moment, disorientation gripped him. The unfamiliar surroundings, the absence of city, noise, the scent of flowers instead of his usual cologne. Then he heard movement, soft footsteps, the quiet clink of something being set down nearby. He opened his eyes to find Noah standing beside the couch, holding a mug of steaming liquid. "Mom said to bring you this," the boy said, offering the mug. "It's hot chocolate. She said you looked like you could use something sweet." Jack sat up, slowly, afraid any sudden movement might shatter this moment. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. The shape of the boy's ears, the slight cleft in his chin, the way his eyebrows drew together when concentrating. "Thank you," Jack said, accepting the mug. Their fingers brushed, and he felt an electric jolt of recognition. Do you like living here, with Olivia and Lily?" Noah nodded. "Mom says flowers teach us how to grow through dirt." He gestured around the shop. "I help with the deliveries, sometimes, and I'm learning to make arrangements for special occasions." "That sounds like important work," Jack said, finding it difficult to keep his voice steady. Noah shrugged. "It makes people happy. That's what Mom says matters most." He studied Jack with unnerving intensity. "Why were you crying in the park yesterday?" The direct question caught Jack off guard. "I lost something important," he answered honestly. "Like when I lost my special baseball, the one signed by Aaron." "Judge?" Jack's heart skipped. Ethan's prized possession had been a baseball signed by the Yankees star. "Something like that," he managed, "but much more important." Noah considered this. "Mom says that sometimes when we lose things, they find their way back to us in unexpected ways, like how she found me." Before Jack could respond, Olivia appeared in the doorway. "Noah, breakfast is ready upstairs." Her tone was light, but her eyes were wary as they moved between Noah and Jack. "Coming, Mom." Noah gave Jack a small wave before heading for the stairs. Once he was gone, Olivia crossed her arms. "I looked you up last night, Mr. Whitman." Jack nodded, unsurprised. "And now you want me to leave?" "Actually," she said, "I'd like you to help me open the shop. The delivery truck comes at 8, and I could use an extra pair of hands." Jack stared at Olivia, convinced he'd misheard. "You want me to help, even after knowing who I am?" Olivia's expression remained neutral. "I know what the internet says about you. That doesn't mean I know who you are." She gestured to a stack of empty buckets. "Those need to be filled with water and plant food. Think you can handle it, Mr. Billionaire?" The unexpected challenge brought a genuine smile to Jack's face. "I believe I can manage." For the next hour, Jack followed Olivia's instructions, filling buckets, unloading the delivery truck, carrying heavy bags of soil to the storage room. His expensive shirt, now wrinkled from sleeping in it, became damp with sweat. His hands, more accustomed to signing documents than physical labor, developed the beginning of blisters. Yet, strangely, he found the work satisfying in a way his executive duties had never been. "Not bad for your first day," Olivia commented, as they finished unpacking a shipment of fresh roses. "Though your technique needs work." "I'm a quick study," Jack replied, surprising himself with how much he wanted her approval. The morning passed in a blur of activity. Jack learned the basics of processing fresh flowers, cutting stems at an angle, removing excess foliage, maintaining proper water levels. When the first customers arrived, he retreated to the back room, not ready to interact with the public in his current state. There, he found a stack of invoices and delivery schedules on a cluttered desk. Without thinking, he began organizing them, his business acumen kicking in. By lunchtime, he'd created a spreadsheet on Olivia's ancient computer, streamlining her billing system. "What's this?" she asked when she discovered him at her desk. "I hope you don't mind," Jack said. "Your system was inefficient." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Some of us didn't graduate from Harvard Business School." "Stanford, actually," Jack corrected with a small smile. "Look, I've simplified it. You can track inventory, billing, and deliveries in one place. It should save you several hours each week." Olivia studied the screen, her expression softening. "That's actually helpful. Thank you." Their eyes met, and for a moment something passed between them, a recognition perhaps of unexpected common ground. The bell above the shop door jingled, breaking the moment. Olivia returned to the front while Jack continued working on the system, losing himself in the familiar rhythm of numbers and logistics. It was comforting to feel useful again, to apply his skills to something concrete and meaningful, however small. Around noon, Lily and Noah burst into the shop, returning from school for their lunch break. The nearby elementary school allowed children to go home for lunch if they lived close enough. Lily immediately launched into a story about her science project, while Noah hung back, watching Jack with curious eyes. "Mom says you're staying to help with the shop," Noah said when Lily paused for breath. Jack glanced at Olivia, who was preparing sandwiches in the tiny kitchenette. "Just for today. You should stay longer," Noah said matter-of-factly. "Mom works too hard." "Noah," Olivia called, a warning in her voice. The boy shrugged. "It's true. You're always tired." Lunch was a simple affair. Turkey sandwiches, apple slices, and lemonade. But Jack couldn't remember the last time he'd enjoyed a meal so much. The children's chatter, the unpretentious food, The warm atmosphere of the shop all combined to create something he'd been missing without realizing it. Normalcy. After the children returned to school, Olivia handed Jack a set of pruning shears. "Think you can handle trimming the dead leaves from the potted plants? It's not complicated, but it requires attention to detail." "I believe I've demonstrated some skill in that area," Jack replied, thinking of the billion-dollar deals he'd structured. Olivia's lips twitched. "This is slightly different from manipulating stock prices, Mr. Whitman." "Jack," he corrected, "and I never manipulated stock prices." She studied him. "No?" "No." He met her gaze directly. "I'm being framed. I just haven't figured out how to prove it yet." Olivia didn't respond immediately. Instead, she demonstrated how to identify dead leaves and where to make the cuts. Jack watched her hands, capable, steady, slightly calloused from years of work, and felt a strange twinge of admiration. As the afternoon progressed, Jack fell into a rhythm, moving from plant to plant, carefully removing anything that hindered growth. There was something therapeutic about the process, identifying what no longer served the plant, making clean cuts to allow new growth. A metaphor for his own life, perhaps. "You're not what I expected," Olivia said, appearing beside him as he worked on a large peace lily. "What did you expect?" "Someone more," she gestured vaguely. "Entitled, arrogant." Jack smiled ruefully. "I probably was before all this. Success has a way of distorting your perspective." "And failure clarifies it," he said simply. They worked in companionable silence until closing time. When the last customer left, Olivia flipped the sign on the door and turned to Jack. "The apartment your attorney rented, is it furnished?" Jack shrugged. "I assume so, I haven't checked." "You should, it's been 2 days." "Are you trying to get rid of me already?" he asked, only half joking. Olivia crossed her arms. "I'm trying to figure out what you're doing here, Jack. You saw Noah and something clicked, I understand that, but what's your endgame?" The direct question deserved an honest answer. "I don't know," Jack admitted. "For 7 years I've been searching for my son. Every lead, every possible sighting ended in disappointment. I've learned not to hope too quickly." He hesitated. "Noah looks like Ethan, moves like him, but I've been wrong before." "And if you're wrong again?" "Then I'll leave," Jack said. "But if I'm right—" Olivia's expression hardened. "Noah is my son, legally adopted, loved and cared for, whatever you're thinking." "I'm not thinking anything yet," Jack interrupted. "I just need time to be sure, one way or the other." A heavy silence fell between them. Finally, Olivia nodded. "The pull-out couch is yours for another night, but tomorrow you check that apartment." Jack kept his word. The next morning, he borrowed Olivia's phone to call his attorney, then took the subway to Queens. The apartment was indeed furnished, though minimally, a bed, a couch, a table with 2 chairs. Impersonal and cold, like a hotel room no one bothered to decorate. He didn't stay long. After showering and changing into clean clothes, his attorney had delivered. Jack found himself heading back to Brooklyn to the flower shop. He told himself it was just to thank Olivia properly, perhaps take her and the children to dinner as a gesture of appreciation. But as the subway rattled beneath the East River, Jack acknowledged the truth. He was drawn back to Noah, to the possibility, however slim, that fate had led him to his son. And perhaps, though he was less ready to admit it to Olivia herself, her strength, her directness, the way she'd created something beautiful from modest beginnings. So different from his ex-wife Rebecca, whose family wealth and social connections had always insulated her from life's harsher realities. When Jack returned to Bloom and Grow that afternoon, he found the shop busy with after-work customers. Without being asked, he slipped behind the counter and began assisting, wrapping bouquets, running the credit card machine, carrying purchases to cars. The work came more naturally now, and he found himself enjoying the customers' reactions to the flowers, their smiles, their excited plans for special occasions. "You came back," Olivia said when the rush finally subsided. There was surprise in her voice, but something else too, a hint of pleasure she couldn't quite disguise. "I did," Jack confirmed. "The apartment was depressing." "Most apartments are, compared to penthouses." "It wasn't that." Jack struggled. to articulate the feeling. It was empty, not just of furniture, of life. Olivia's expression softened slightly, like flowers without water. Exactly. The bell above the door jangled as Lily burst in, followed by Noah at a more sedate pace. They'd been at an after-school program, Lily explained breathlessly, where they'd learned about ecosystems. And Noah's ecosystem was the best because he knows all about how plants work together, she announced proudly. Noah looked embarrassed. It wasn't that good. It was excellent, Lily insisted. Even Miss Peterson said so. As the children settled at the small table in the corner to do homework, Jack found himself watching Noah. The careful way he arranged his pencils, the slight furrow of concentration between his brows. So like Ethan, yet with a quietness Ethan had never possessed. His son had been boisterous, always in motion. Noah moved with a careful deliberation, as if testing each step. He wasn't always like this, Olivia said softly, following Jack's gaze. When he first came to me, he wouldn't speak, wouldn't look anyone in the eye. It took months before he said his first word. Which was? A smile touched Olivia's lips. Flower. Jack felt a pang of something indefinable, pride mixed with sorrow for all the moments he'd missed. If Noah was Ethan, what had happened to transform his outgoing boy into this thoughtful, quiet child? I have a proposition, Jack said suddenly. I'm good with numbers. You need help with the business side of things. Let me work here, part-time, in exchange for the pull-out couch. Olivia looked skeptical. You want to work in a flower shop? You, a former CEO? Former being the operative word, Jack reminded her. Besides, I need something to occupy my time while my attorneys sort out this mess, and you need help. I've managed fine for 8 years. You've survived, Jack corrected, gently. But with proper systems in place, you could thrive, expand even, Olivia glanced at the children, then back at Jack. Part-time only, and the first sign of any inappropriate interest in Noah, you're gone. Agreed, Jack said, extending his hand. As they shook on it, Jack felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a sense of possibility of a future not dictated by board meetings and profit margins. A simpler life, perhaps, but one with meaning. That evening, as he prepared the pull-out couch, Noah appeared in the office doorway, clutching a book. Mum said I could ask if you'd read to me, he said hesitantly. She's helping Lily with her project. Jack's heart swelled. I'd like that very much. Noah handed him the book, The Little Prince, and climbed onto the couch beside him. As Jack began to read, the boy leaned against his arm, a warm, trusting weight that felt achingly familiar. All grown-ups were once children, Jack read, but only few of them remember it. Noah looked up at him with serious blue eyes. Do you remember being a child? Jack thought of his own privileged but lonely childhood, the pressure to achieve, the constant striving. Parts of it, he answered honestly, the important parts. Like what? Jack smiled. Like reading with my father, just like this. 2 weeks passed, falling into an unexpected rhythm. Jack arrived at Bloom and Grow each morning at 7, helping Olivia prepare for the day. He'd modernized her inventory system, streamlined ordering, and created a proper accounting method that revealed the shop was more profitable than she'd realized. In the afternoons, he worked the counter, while Olivia created arrangements, their contrasting skills complementing each other surprisingly well. The pull-out couch in the office had become his temporary home. Jack visited his Queen's apartment, occasionally to collect mail and check in with his attorney, but never stayed. The sterile rooms held no appeal compared to the vibrant life of the flower shop. You're different here, his attorney Michael Barnes observed during one of their meetings at a cafe near the shop. More human. Jack raised an eyebrow. As opposed to? A machine, Michael said bluntly. The Jack Whitman I've represented for 15 years was brilliant, but remote. Focused on the next acquisition, the next breakthrough. This version of you seems present. Jack considered this as he stirred his coffee. Losing everything has a way of shifting your perspective. Not everything, Michael reminded him, sliding a folder across the table. The investigation is progressing. We've identified inconsistencies in the electronic signatures. The timestamps don't align with your known whereabouts on several key dates. Hope flickered. That's something. It's a start, Michael agreed, but we need more. The digital trail is sophisticated. Whoever did this knows how to cover their tracks. He hesitated. There's something else. Rebecca is filing for full custody of Sophie. Given the current charges against you, Jack's jaw tightened. I haven't even been allowed to see my daughter. I know. I'm fighting it. Michael studied him. Jack, I have to ask, this shop owner you're staying with, what's the real story? There? Jack tensed. What do you mean? You're living above a flower shop in Brooklyn, you who once complained about the thread count at the Four Seasons. Olivia offered me shelter when no one else would, Jack said defensively. She's a friend. Michael's expression remained skeptical. And the boy, the one you mentioned, looks like Ethan? Jack had shared his suspicions during their first meeting after finding Noah. Noah, he said. His name is Noah. Have you considered DNA testing? Of course I've considered it, Jack snapped, then moderated his tone. But it's complicated. Olivia adopted him legally. She's protective, understandably so. Jack, Michael said gently, if this child is Ethan, you have rights. Legal rights that supersede an adoption predicated on false information. The thought had occurred to Jack repeatedly over the past 2 weeks. Yet each time it surfaced, he found himself thinking of Olivia, her love for Noah, her years of patient care, the stable home she'd created, and Noah himself, thriving in her care. Let's focus on clearing my name first, Jack said, one crisis at a time. Back at the shop, Jack found Olivia arranging a complex wedding order, cascading bouquets of white roses, lilies, and delicate greenery. Her face was set in concentration, hands moving with practiced precision. She looked up as he entered, a question in her eyes. Any news? Jack had told her about the investigation, sharing his suspicion that Victor Reynolds, his CFO, was behind the frame-up. Small progress, he said. Some inconsistencies in the electronic signatures. Olivia nodded, returning to her work. That's something, at least. Jack watched her. For a moment, struck by the artistry in her movements. Need help? You can start on the centerpieces, small clusters, like we discussed. They worked side by side in comfortable silence, occasionally brushing against each other in the confined space. Jack had become adept at basic arrangements, following Olivia's clear instructions. He found the work meditative, focusing on beauty and balance after years of chasing profit margins. Where are the kids? He asked, realizing the shop was unusually quiet. At my sister Elena's for the night. She takes them once a month for a sleepover with their cousins. Olivia glanced at him. I usually use the time to catch up on paperwork, but thanks to your systems, I'm actually ahead. Jack felt a small surge of pride. So you admit my changes have been helpful? A reluctant smile touched her lips. I admit nothing, she finished, the bouquet with a flourish. But I might have plans to actually watch a movie tonight instead of reconciling accounts. Small miracles. You should celebrate properly, Jack said impulsively. Let me take you to dinner. Olivia looked up, surprise evident in her expression. Dinner? Yes, that meal people typically enjoy in the evening, Jack teased. My treat. To thank you for everything. I'm not exactly dressed for anywhere you'd consider dinner, Olivia said, gesturing to her jeans and flower-patterned blouse. You look perfect, Jack said, meaning it. Besides, I know a place nearby, casual but excellent food. After a moment's hesitation, Olivia nodded. All right, but I need to finish these arrangements first. 2 hours later, they sat across from each other at a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a quiet street. The owner, an elderly man named Giuseppe, had greeted Jack like an old friend. You know the owner of a hole-in-the-wall Brooklyn restaurant? Olivia asked after they'd ordered. That seems unlikely for Jack Whitman, CEO. Jack smiled. Giuseppe catered an event for me years ago. I never forgot his risotto. He didn't add that he'd later helped finance the restaurant when Giuseppe's previous location faced closure. Some aspects of his former life were worth preserving. The food was exceptional, handmade pasta, fresh seafood, rich sauces. Jack watched with pleasure as Olivia closed her eyes in appreciation of the flavors. When was the last time she'd been treated to a nice meal, he wondered. Her life seemed a constant cycle of work, childcare, and more work. "Tell me about how you started the shop," Jack said as they enjoyed their entrees. Olivia twirled pasta around her fork. "It wasn't exactly planned. I was working 3 jobs, waitressing, office cleaning, and weekend shifts at a grocery store, barely making ends meet. Then my neighbor, an elderly woman named Rose, became ill. She had this tiny flower cart she'd push to the farmer's market every weekend. Let me guess, you took over for her?" Olivia nodded. "Just temporarily, I thought, but I discovered I had a knack for it. People responded to my arrangements. I started making more in those weekend hours than in all my other jobs combined." She smiled at the memory. "When Rose passed away, she left me her cart and her supplier contacts. That was my start." "And now?" 8 years later, here we are." She gestured around. "Still small, but mine, built flower by flower." Jack felt a surge of admiration. He'd built his company with millions in venture capital backing, while Olivia had created her business from nothing but determination and talent. "What about Noah?" he asked carefully. "How did he come into your life?" Olivia's expression grew guarded. "I told you, through the foster system." "But why you? There must have been many potential foster parents." She was silent for a moment, swirling wine in her glass. "My sister Elena works in social services. Noah's case was difficult. A traumatized child who wouldn't speak, wouldn't connect. They needed someone patient, with a flexible schedule." She met his eyes. "Elena thought I might be able to reach him. Something about the flowers, the calm environment, the sensory experience." "And you agreed?" "Not immediately," Olivia admitted. "I was barely keeping the shop afloat, living in a studio apartment above it. Taking in a child seemed impossible." Her expression softened. "But then I met him. This small, silent boy with haunted eyes, something unconnected." Jack's throat tightened, and he started to heal. Slowly, very slowly. The nightmares were the worst. Olivia's voice grew quiet. He'd wake up screaming, but no sound would come out, just silent terror. Jack felt physically ill imagining Ethan, if Noah was indeed Ethan, suffering such trauma. Did he ever remember what happened to him? Olivia shook her head. The psychologist said it was dissociative amnesia, his mind protecting him from whatever happened. He remembered his first name eventually, nothing else. Their conversation was interrupted by Giuseppe, bringing tiramisu and espresso. As they enjoyed dessert, the topic shifted to lighter territory: favorite books, films, childhood memories. Jack found himself laughing more than he had in years, drawn to Olivia's sharp wit and unpretentious wisdom. Walking back to the shop through the mild spring evening, Jack felt a strange contentment. For a few hours he'd forgotten about the investigation, the lost fortune, even his suspicions about Noah. He'd simply enjoyed the company of a remarkable woman. "Thank you for dinner," Olivia said as they reached the shop. "It was unexpected." "In a good way, I hope." Her smile was answer enough. As she unlocked the door, Jack found himself wanting to prolong the evening, reluctant to return to the pull-out couch and his complicated thoughts. Inside, the shop was peaceful, filled with the subtle fragrance of flowers and the quiet hum of the refrigeration units. Olivia hesitated at the bottom of the stairs leading to her apartment. "Would you like a nightcap?" she asked. "I have a decent bourbon someone gave me for Christmas." The invitation surprised him. "I'd like that." Upstairs, Jack discovered a cozy apartment with mismatched furniture, overflowing bookshelves, and children's artwork decorating the walls. It was the opposite of his minimalist penthouse, yet immediately felt more like a home than any place he'd lived in decades. Olivia poured 2 glasses of bourbon, then curled up on the sofa. Jack sat beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said after they'd sipped in silence for a moment. Of course. Your son. What was he like? The question caught Jack off guard. He took a long sip of bourbon, letting the warmth spread through him. Ethan was vibrant, always in motion, curious about everything. He'd ask questions until I thought my head would explode. A smile tugged at his lips. He loved baseball, the Yankees specifically, knew every player's stats, and he had this laugh, infectious. You couldn't hear it without smiling. You were close. Jack's smile faded. Not as close as we should have been. I was building the company, always busy, always distracted. Rebecca handled most of the day-to-day parenting. The admission hurt. I kept telling myself there would be time later, when things settled down. But they never do they? Olivia said softly. Settle down. No, Jack agreed. That's the great lie we tell ourselves, that someday we'll have time for what matters. He looked at her directly. You're smarter than I was. You prioritize Noah and Lily. I don't have much choice, Olivia said. There's no staff of nannies and housekeepers in my budget. It's not about resources, Jack insisted. It's about choices. I had every advantage and still got it wrong. He set down his glass. Noah is lucky to have you. Something shifted in Olivia's expression, a softening, a recognition. Jack, about Noah. The shrilling of Jack's phone cut through the moment. He pulled it from his pocket, frowning at the unknown number. Excuse me, I should take this. Stepping into the hallway, Jack answered. Whitman. Jack, it's Michael. I'm sorry to call so late. Jack's pulse quickened at his attorney's urgent tone. What is it? We've had a breakthrough. The digital forensics team found something, an IP address linked to the fraudulent transactions. It traces back to a private server registered to a shell company. Michael paused. A shell company we've connected to Victor Reynolds. Jack closed his eyes, relief washing over him. You're sure? Positive, and there's more. A whistleblower has come forward, Reynolds' assistant. She claims he's been planning this for over a year, systematically creating false evidence against you. Why now? Jack asked. Why is she coming forward? Apparently, Reynolds has been moving assets offshore. She got suspicious, started digging, found more than she bargained for. Michael's voice grew stronger. Jack, this could be the break we need. The SEC is reopening the investigation with this new information. Jack leaned against the wall, legs suddenly weak. Keep me posted. And Michael, thank you. When he returned to the living room, Olivia was standing by the window, looking out at the Brooklyn streetscape. She turned as he entered. Good news? She asked, noting his expression. Potentially? Jack explained the development, watching hope dawn in her eyes. That's wonderful, she said sincerely. I'm happy for you, Jack. He moved to stand beside her at the window. You were about to tell me something about Noah. Olivia hesitated, then nodded. I think it's time we found out the truth, for everyone's sake. The DNA testing center was housed in a nondescript medical building in Midtown Manhattan. Jack sat in the waiting room, fingers drumming anxiously against his thigh. Beside him, Olivia remained still, her composure betrayed only by the tight grip she maintained on her purse. It will take a few days for results, the receptionist had explained after taking their samples. We'll call you. Now, emerging into the bright spring sunshine, Jack felt oddly deflated. After weeks of speculation, the simple act of providing cheek swabs seemed anticlimactic. The real emotional reckoning still lay ahead. Coffee, he suggested, gesturing to a cafe across the street. Olivia nodded, looking relieved at the suggestion. Once seated with steaming cups before them, she finally spoke. We need to discuss what happens next, regardless of the results. Jack had been avoiding this conversation, focusing instead on the practical aspects of the test. You're right. If Noah is your son, Olivia said carefully, what are your intentions? The directness of the question was typical of her. No evasions, no platitudes. I don't want to disrupt his life, Jack began. He's happy with you. Secure. That's evident. But, Olivia prompted, But if he's Ethan, I want to be part of his life, not just as the man who helps at the flower shop. Jack met her gaze steadily. He's my son, Olivia. 7 years have been stolen from us already. Olivia's expression remained composed, though her knuckles whitened around her cup. And if you're cleared of all charges, if your former life becomes available again? The penthouse, the company, the jet-setting existence? The question gave Jack pause. He hadn't allowed himself to think that far ahead, too focused on clearing his name and confirming Noah's identity. What would he do if he could reclaim his former position? Return to 70-hour work weeks, board meetings, investor calls? I don't know, he admitted. That life seems distant now, like something I watched rather than lived. But appealing, Olivia pressed. The power, the prestige. Jack considered this. Parts of it, yes. I built something meaningful, something that changed how people interact with technology. I'm proud of that. He leaned forward. But I've learned something these past weeks. Success means nothing if you're not present for it. Really present. Small smile touched Olivia's lips. Flower shop philosophy rubbing off on you? Perhaps, Jack returned the smile. Or perhaps it's the company I've been keeping. The moment lingered between them, weighted with unspoken feelings. Jack had become increasingly aware of his attraction to Olivia, her strength, her principles, her quiet intelligence. But the timing couldn't be worse, with both Noah's identity and his own legal situation unresolved. What about you? He asked finally. If Noah is Ethan, what do you want? Olivia looked away, watching people pass by the cafe window. I want what's best for him, I always have. Her voice grew softer. When he first came to me, he was so broken, Jack, completely withdrawn. I'd sit with him for hours, just being present, letting him know he wasn't alone. She turned back to Jack, eyes bright with unshed tears. I watched him heal day by day, find his voice again, find joy. You saved him, Jack said quietly. We saved each other, Olivia corrected. Before Noah, I was just existing, working, surviving, but not really living. She took a deep breath. So, yes, the thought of losing him is unbearable. But keeping him from his father, if that's who you are, that would be wrong. Jack reached across the table, covering her hand with his. No one is talking about taking him away from you. Aren't they? Olivia withdrew her hand gently. Your lawyer certainly would. Legal rights that supersede an adoption predicated on false information. Isn't that how it works? Jack winced, recognizing his attorney's phrasing. You overheard. Thin walls in flower shops, Olivia confirmed. Look, Jack, I'm not naive. You're Jack Whitman. Even with your current legal troubles, you have resources I can't match. If you wanted to fight for custody... I don't, Jack interrupted firmly. That's not what I want. What do you want? Then? The question hung between them, encompassing more than just Noah's future. What did he want? For his career? For his relationships? For his life? I want us to find a way forward that honors what Noah needs, Jack said carefully. If he's Ethan, then he has 2 parents who love him. That should be a blessing, not a battle. Relief flickered across Olivia's face. Shared custody. Something like that, Jack agreed. We can figure out the details together. The conversation shifted to more immediate concerns. How and when to tell Noah if the test confirmed their suspicions, what to share about his past, how to help him process such life-changing information. By the time they left the cafe, a tentative plan had formed, built on their shared commitment to Noah's well-being. Walking back to the subway, Jack received a call from Michael. The SEC has frozen Reynolds' accounts, his attorney reported. They've found evidence of systematic fraud dating back 18 months. The man was methodical, creating false emails, doctoring financial reports, even hiring a voice actor to record phone conversations that sounded like you, all to frame me. Why? Power, money, the usual suspects, Michael replied. Reynolds had been quietly buying company shares through various fronts. If you were removed and the stock plummeted, he'd gain controlling interest at a fraction of the cost. Classic corporate raiding, just with more technology and fewer scruples. What happens now? The SEC wants to interview you tomorrow, not as a suspect, but as a witness. Things are moving quickly, Jack. If this continues, you could be fully cleared within weeks. The news should have elated him. Instead, Jack felt strangely ambivalent. Being cleared meant facing decisions about returning to his former life, the company, the responsibilities, the expectations. "I'll be there," he promised, ending the call. Olivia had moved ahead, giving him privacy for the conversation. Now she waited at the subway entrance, spring sunlight highlighting the copper undertones in her dark hair. Watching her, Jack realized with sudden clarity that his feelings had grown beyond gratitude or attraction. In the midst of his darkest moments, he'd found something unexpected, not just a temporary shelter, but a woman whose strength and compassion challenged and changed him. "Good news?" she asked as he approached. "Progress," Jack confirmed, explaining the developments. As they descended into the subway station. "So it's almost over," Olivia said as they boarded the train. "You'll be vindicated." "It seems that way." "And then what?" The question echoed their earlier conversation. Jack looked around the crowded subway car, so different from the private cars and helicopters that had once been his normal mode of transportation. Yet in the past weeks he'd found an unexpected comfort in this ordinary existence. The rhythm of the shop, the simple pleasure of dinner with Olivia and the children, even the cramped pull-out couch that had become his. "Pedos, I don't know," he answered honestly. "But I'm not the same person who lost everything a month ago. That's certain." Back at Bloom & Grow, they found Eleanor had dropped off the children early. Lily was helping a customer select a birthday arrangement, her natural charm evident as she described the meaning of different flowers. Noah sat at the back table, sketching what appeared to be a complex garden design. "Mom, Jack!" Lily spotted them first, waving enthusiastically. "Noah's designing a vertical garden for the back wall. It's going to be amazing." Noah looked up, his expression brightening. "I thought we could use the wall space more efficiently," he explained as they approached. "These plants can grow upward, and these trailing ones can cascade down. It would create more room for inventory." Jack examined the drawing, impressed by the thoughtfulness and precision. "This is excellent, Noah, very professional." The boy beamed at the praise. "Mom's been teaching me about plant placement. Which ones need more light? Which ones can handle shade?" "He's a natural," Olivia said, pride evident in her voice as she ruffled Noah's hair affectionately. Jack felt a pang watching them, the easy affection, the shared knowledge and interests. If Noah was Ethan, would he ever have that same connection with him? Or had too much time passed? The next day, Jack met with SEC investigators, walking them through his understanding of the company's finances and providing details that corroborated the whistleblower's account. By the time he emerged from the federal building, evening was falling over the city. "You did well," Michael said as they descended the steps. "They're convinced of your innocence. It's just a matter of process now." Jack nodded, his mind already back in Brooklyn, wondering how the day's deliveries had gone, whether Noah had made progress on his garden design, if Olivia had managed the afternoon rush alone. "The board is meeting tomorrow," Michael continued. "They're discussing reinstating you as CEO. With Reynolds' scheme exposed, the stock is already rebounding." "That's fast." Michael gave him a strange look. "It's what we've been fighting for, Jack. Your reputation, your position." "Of course," Jack agreed, though without the enthusiasm Michael clearly expected. "Keep me posted." Instead of heading to his Queens apartment, Jack took the subway back to Brooklyn. The shop was closed when he arrived, but lights glowed upstairs. He used the key Olivia had given him and made his way through the darkened store, surrounded by the now familiar scents of flowers and damp earth. Upstairs, he found a scene of domestic tranquility. Olivia helping Lily with homework at the kitchen table, Noah reading on the couch, soft music playing in the background. They looked up as he entered, all three faces brightening in welcome. "Jack!" Lily exclaimed. "Did you catch the bad guy?" He laughed. "It doesn't quite work that way, but yes, the truth is coming out." "Does that mean you're leaving?" Noah asked, his voice carefully neutral, though his eyes betrayed concern. The question caught Jack off guard. No, not immediately. But eventually, Noah persisted. When you get your company back. Jack glanced at Olivia, who was watching the exchange with a guarded expression. I don't know yet, Noah. There are a lot of decisions to make. You should stay, Lily announced with childlike certainty. You make Mom smile more, and you're teaching Noah about business stuff. Lily, Olivia chided gently, though a blush colored her cheeks. Jack felt a rush of affection for this little family that had welcomed him into their lives. Whatever the DNA test revealed, whatever happened with Whitman Innovations, he knew, with sudden clarity, that he wanted to remain connected to them. I'd like to stay involved, he said carefully, if that's okay with everyone. Later, after the children were in bed, Jack and Olivia sat on her small balcony, sharing a bottle of wine and the day's events. The night was warm, stars barely visible through the city's light pollution. The board wants you back, Olivia said, not quite a question. It seems that way. And you'll go. Jack turned to face her. I built that company from nothing, Olivia. It represents 20 years of my life. I understand, she said, her voice gentle. It's who you are. It's who I was, Jack corrected. I'm not sure it's who I am now. Olivia studied him in the dim light. What does that mean? Before Jack could respond, his phone rang, the testing center's number appearing on the screen. He glanced at Olivia, both of them suddenly tense. That's them, she said unnecessarily. Answer it. Jack connected the call, putting it on speaker so Olivia could hear. The technician's voice was professionally neutral as she confirmed their identities, then delivered the results with clinical precision. Based on the samples provided, the probability of paternity is 99.99998%. In layman's terms, Mr. Whitman, you are the biological father of the child in question. A moment of profound silence followed the announcement. Jack stared at Olivia, seeing his own tumultuous emotions reflected in her eyes: vindication, fear, uncertainty, hope. Thank you, Jack managed, ending the call. The night seemed to hold its breath around them. Noah, Ethan, was his son. The child he'd searched for, grieved for, never stopped loving, was sleeping just a few rooms away. The miracle of it struck Jack with physical force. He's my son, he whispered, voice breaking. Olivia, he's Ethan. Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks as she nodded. I knew, she admitted. Deep down, I think I always knew. The resemblance, the timing, his nightmares about being taken from a park. Jack reached for her hands, gripping them tightly. What do we do now? We tell him, Olivia said simply. Together, tomorrow. She looked into his eyes. And then we become the family he needs us to be, whatever form that takes. In that moment, on a small Brooklyn balcony far from the world, of corporate power and wealth he'd once inhabited, Jack Whitman made the most important decision of his life. It wasn't about businesses or boardrooms or billions. It was about a boy who needed both the mother who had healed him and the father who had never stopped searching for him. And perhaps, though he hardly dared acknowledge it even to himself, it was also about the remarkable woman sitting across from him, whose strength and heart had shown him a different kind of success, one measured not in dollars, but in moments of genuine connection. Morning arrived with gentle persistence, sunlight filtering through the curtains of Olivia's apartment. Jack had barely slept, his mind cycling through memories of Ethan, questions about the past 7 years, and anxiety about the conversation ahead. How did you tell a 10-year-old boy that his entire understanding of his identity was about to change? He found Olivia in the kitchen, already dressed, making coffee with mechanical movements that suggested her night had been equally restless. Did you sleep at all? He asked, accepting the mug she offered. An hour, maybe. She leaned against the counter. I kept checking on him, just watching him sleep, trying to imagine how he'll take it, Jack finished. Olivia nodded. We've decided to tell him before the children leave for school. I called and arranged for Lily to spend the day with Elena. Noah, Ethan will stay home. We'll need time to talk, answer his questions. They discussed their approach late into the night, agreeing on honesty tempered with sensitivity. They would explain that Jack was Noah's biological father, that he'd been searching for him since his disappearance, that Olivia hadn't known his true identity when she adopted him. They would emphasize that nothing would change in terms of Noah's security. Both parents wanted what was best for him. "Do we use his birth name?" Jack had asked. Olivia had considered this carefully. "We should tell him what it is, but let him decide what he wants to be called. He's been Noah for 7 years. That's his identity now." The sound of small feet padding down the hallway silenced their conversation. Lily appeared first, already dressed in her school uniform, followed by Noah in pajamas, hair tousled from sleep. "Jack!" Lily exclaimed. "You're here early." "Actually," Olivia said, her voice gentle but firm, "Jack stayed over last night. We have something important to talk about with Noah this morning." Lily's eyes widened with interest. "What is it? Is it a surprise?" "It's a private conversation," Olivia explained. "That's why you're going to spend the day with Aunt Elena and your cousins." "But," Lily began to protest. "No arguments," Olivia said. "Go finish getting ready. Elena will be here in 20 minutes. As Lily reluctantly headed back to her room, Noah studied the adults with serious eyes. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Jack and Olivia answered simultaneously. "Nothing like that," Olivia assured him, smoothing his hair. "But it is important. We'll talk after breakfast, okay?" Noah nodded, though his expression remained wary. Jack recognized the look, the same cautious assessment Ethan would adopt when sensing tension beneath adult reassurances. His heart ached with the need to embrace his son, to tell him everything immediately, but he restrained himself. They needed to approach this carefully. Breakfast was a subdued affair, with Lily chattering obliviously while the others maintained a pretense of normalcy. When Elena arrived to collect Lily, Olivia walked them downstairs, leaving Jack and Noah alone in momentary silence. "Is it about the garden design?" Noah asked suddenly. "Because I know it might be expensive, but I've calculated the costs, and if we use cuttings from existing plants—" "It's not about the garden," Jack interrupted gently, "though I think your design is brilliant." Noah studied him, those familiar blue eyes, Ethan's eyes, searching his face. "Is it about you and Mom? Are you together now?" The question caught Jack off guard. "What makes you ask that?" Noah shrugged. "You look at her the way Mr. Rodriguez looks at his wife when they come buy flowers for their anniversary, and Mom smiles more when you're around." Jack felt a flush rise to his cheeks. Had his feelings for Olivia been so transparent, even to a child? Before he could formulate a response, Olivia returned, closing the apartment door behind her. "Lily's gone," she announced, her voice steadier than her expression. She sat beside Noah at the kitchen table, gesturing for Jack to join them. "Noah, honey, we have something very important to tell you. It might be confusing or even upsetting at first, but I want you to know that both Jack and I care about you very much. Nothing will change that." Noah's posture stiffened, his hands folding together on the table. "Okay." Olivia glanced at Jack, then back to Noah. "Do you remember when you first came to live with me, how the social workers explained that they didn't know who your birth parents were?" Noah nodded slowly. "Because I couldn't remember, because of what happened." "That's right," Olivia confirmed. "And over time we became a family, you and me. And then Lily came along too." "And now we're a family," Noah said, a note of defensiveness entering his voice. "Yes, we are," Olivia assured him, reaching for his hand. "That won't change, but something unexpected has happened." She took a deep breath. "Noah, Jack is your biological father. Your birth name is Ethan Whitman." Noah's eyes widened, darting between Olivia and Jack. "What?" Jack leaned forward, careful, to maintain a respectful distance. 7 years ago, my son Ethan, you disappeared from a baseball game in Central Park. I've been searching for you ever since." That's not possible," Noah said, his voice small. "I don't remember any of that." "The doctors think you experienced something traumatic," Olivia explained gently. "Your mind protected you by blocking those memories." "We did a DNA test," Jack added. "That's where we were yesterday. The results confirmed it." Noah stood. abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "So what happens? Now do I have to go with him? Leave you?" His voice rose in panic as he addressed Olivia. "No, honey, no," Olivia said quickly, rising to embrace him. "That's not what this means. You'll stay with me in your home. Jack and I have talked about this. We both want what's best for you." "What does that mean?" Noah demanded, tears gathering in his eyes. Jack fought the urge to reach for his son, giving him the space he clearly needed. "It means we'll figure this out together," he said, quietly. "You'll continue living here with Olivia, with Mom, but I'd like to be part of your life too. If that's okay with you." Noah looked between them, confusion and fear evident in his expression. "I don't understand. If you're my father, why didn't you find me sooner?" The question struck Jack like a physical blow. "I tried," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I never stopped looking. There were searches, rewards, private investigators, but whoever took you hid their tracks well." "Took me?" Noah's face paled. "Someone took me. From you." Jack realized his mistake immediately. They'd agreed to be cautious about discussing the kidnapping until Noah was ready. "Yes," he admitted gently, "but you're safe now. You've been safe with Olivia for years." Noah turned to Olivia, his expression betrayed. "Did you know that I was taken?" "No, honey," Olivia said firmly. "I knew you'd been through something traumatic, but not what or who you were. The authorities couldn't identify you. If I had known, I would have helped reunite you with your father immediately." Noah seemed to process this, his breathing gradually slowing. "My name is Ethan?" "It was," Jack confirmed. "Ethan James Whitman, but you've been Noah for a long time now. You can decide what you want to be called." "I don't feel like an Ethan," Noah said quietly. "I don't remember being him." "That's okay," Jack assured him. "You're Noah now. That's who you've become." Noah sat back down, his young face unnaturally serious as he contemplated this new reality. "Do I have other family?" Jack nodded. "You have a sister, Sophie. She's 16 now, and a mother, Rebecca, my ex-wife." He hesitated. "They never stopped missing you either." This seemed to overwhelm Noah. He looked down at his hands. "I need to think." "Of course," Olivia said, stroking his hair. "Take all the time you need. There's no rush for anything. Can I go to my room?" "Sure, honey." They watched as Noah walked away, his shoulders slumped beneath the weight of revelations no child should have to bear. When his bedroom door closed, Olivia turned to Jack, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "That could have gone worse," she said, attempting a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Or better," Jack replied. "I shouldn't have mentioned the kidnapping. He would have figured it out anyway. He's perceptive." Olivia sank back into her chair. "What now?" "We give him space," Jack said. "Answer his questions when he's ready. Take this at his pace." They spent the morning in a state of anxious waiting, Olivia busying herself with household tasks, while Jack called Michael to explain he wouldn't be available for the board meeting. His attorney was incredulous. "Jack, this is your reinstatement we're talking about, your vindication." "It will have to wait," Jack said firmly. "Family emergency." "Family? What family?" Michael's confusion was evident. "Jack, what's going on with you? First you're living above a flower shop, now you're missing critical meetings for family emergencies." "I found Ethan," Jack said simply. A stunned silence followed. "What? How? Where?" "It's complicated. I'll explain everything later. Just tell the board I need 24 hours." After ending the call, Jack joined Olivia in the kitchen where she was mechanically wiping already clean counters. "How long do we give him?" she asked. "As long as he needs," Jack replied, gently taking the cloth from her hands. "Olivia, he's processing information that would overwhelm most adults. His entire identity has shifted." She nodded, leaning against the counter. "I keep thinking about what this means for him. For us. Everything's changed, but nothing has." "What do you mean?" "He's still Noah, my son, the boy I've raised. But he's also Ethan, your son, the child you lost." She looked up at Jack. "How do we reconcile those realities? How do we share him without tearing him apart? Before Jack could respond, Noah's bedroom door opened. He emerged holding something in his hands, a baseball, worn with age and year. Handling. "I found this when I was cleaning last month," he said, approaching them cautiously. "It was in my old backpack at the bottom. I didn't know why I had it." Jack's breath caught as he recognized the ball, a signed Yankees baseball, Ethan's prized possession, given to him by Jack on his 6th birthday. With trembling hands, he accepted it from Noah. "You never went anywhere without this," he said softly. "It was signed by Aaron Judge," Noah finished. "I know. I just didn't know why it was important to me." He hesitated. "I've been having these flashes, not really memories, just feelings, since you came to the shop." "What kind of feelings?" Olivia asked gently. Noah frowned in concentration. "Like déjà vu, but stronger. When Jack reads to me or when we talked about baseball, it felt familiar." He looked at Jack. Did we go to games together?" Jack nodded, throat tight. "Many times. The Yankees were our thing. We had a special handshake we'd do whenever they scored." A glimmer of recognition flickered in Noah's eyes. Was it like this? He demonstrated a complex sequence of hand movements, ending with a fist bump. Jack stared in amazement. "Exactly like that." Noah's eyes widened. "I thought I made that up." The moment hung between them, fragile and profound. Then, hesitantly, Noah stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Jack's waist. Jack froze momentarily, overwhelmed by emotion, before carefully returning the embrace, one hand cradling the back of his son's head. "I don't remember everything," Noah said, his voice muffled against Jack's shirt. "But I think part of me always knew something was missing." Olivia watched them, tears streaming freely down her face. Jack extended his arm, inviting her into the embrace. She joined them, forming a circle of connection that transcended conventional family structures. "We'll figure this out," Jack promised, holding them both. "Together." The next few days established a tentative new normal. Jack moved his belongings to the Queen's apartment, but spent most of his time at the flower shop. Noah, who decided to keep the name he'd grown up with, had moments of curiosity about his past life, asking Jack questions about his early childhood, their home, his interests before the kidnapping. Other times, he seemed to retreat, overwhelmed by the implications of his dual identity. Through it all, Jack and Olivia maintained a united front, prioritizing Noah's emotional well-being above all else. Jack scheduled a meeting with Noah's therapist to discuss the best approach for reintroducing him to Sophie and Rebecca. The therapist advised patience, suggesting gradual contact, starting with photographs and stories before actual meetings. Week after the revelation, Jack received another call from Michael. "The board is getting restless," his attorney warned. "Reynolds has been arrested. The SEC has cleared you of all wrongdoing. They want their CEO back." "I need more time," Jack insisted. "How much time, Jack?" "The company needs leadership. The stock is stabilizing, but without clear direction." Jack glanced through the office doorway to where Noah and Olivia were arranging a special order together, their movements in perfect sync. "I'm not sure I'm coming back, Michael. Not as CEO." Silence greeted this announcement. "You can't be serious," Michael finally said. "You built that company. It's your legacy." "Perhaps," Jack agreed, "but I'm re-evaluating what legacy means to me now." That evening, after the shop closed, Jack found himself alone with Olivia. Noah and Lily were upstairs watching a movie, the sounds of their laughter occasionally drifting down. "The board wants me back," Jack said without preamble. Olivia looked up from the sales figures she was reviewing. "Of course they do. You've been vindicated. I'm considering stepping down permanently, remaining as a board member but appointing a new CEO." Surprise registered on Olivia's face. "Why? I thought Whitman Innovations was your life's work." "It was," Jack acknowledged, "but priorities change." "Because of Noah?" "Partly," Jack admitted, "but not entirely." He met her gaze directly. I've discovered there's more to life than quarterly reports and stock options. Here in this shop with you and the children, I found something I never had in that corner office. And what's that? Olivia asked softly. Peace, Jack said simply. Purpose beyond profit. Connection. He hesitated. Olivia, I don't want to overstep, but these past weeks have meant more to me than just finding my son. I've found a different way of living. One I don't want to lose. Understanding dawned in Olivia's eyes. Jack, I'm not asking for anything, he assured her quickly. I know the timing is complicated. We're both focused on Noah right now, as we should be. I just wanted you to know that my decisions aren't just about him. They're also about possibilities for all of us. Olivia was silent for a long moment, her expression thoughtful. Noah asked me something yesterday, she said finally. He wanted to know if you would be moving back to your fancy apartment in the sky now that the bad people were caught. What did you tell him? That he should ask you. Olivia's gaze was steady. So I'm asking for him. Are you going back to your old life, Jack? The question hung between them, laden with implications that extended far beyond real estate. Preferences. Jack thought of his penthouse, beautiful, sterile, empty. He thought of board meetings and private jets, of assistants and investors, and the relentless pursuit of the next big innovation. Then he thought of morning coffee in Olivia's kitchen, of Noah's garden designs, of Lily's exuberant storytelling. He thought of the simple satisfaction of helping a customer find the perfect arrangement, of watching Olivia's skilled hands create beauty from stems and petals. No, he said with quiet certainty, I'm not going back. I'm moving forward. 2 years later, the Brooklyn Botanical Haven sprawled across what had once been an abandoned lot adjacent to Bloom and Grow. Where weeds and broken concrete had dominated, now flourished a community garden, a small cafe, and an education center dedicated to urban agriculture and floral design. At the heart of it all stood the original flower shop, its facade refreshed, but still bearing the name Olivia had chosen years ago. Jack surveyed the busy Saturday morning crowd from the cafe's entrance, a sense of quiet satisfaction warming him. Children gathered around the butterfly garden Noah had designed, their faces bright with wonder, as monarchs and swallowtails danced among the carefully selected plants. In the education center, a workshop on sustainable floristry was underway, led by Olivia's sister Elena. The cafe, managed by Giuseppe's grandson Marco, served organic pastries and coffees to a steady stream of neighborhood residents and visitors. Mr. Whitman, a young woman approached, notepad in hand. I'm Amelia Davis from Urban Green magazine. Thank you for agreeing to this interview. Jack smiled, gesturing to a quiet table in the corner. Please, call me Jack, and thank you for your interest in our project. The Brooklyn Botanical Haven has become something of a model for urban renewal, Amelia began, setting up her recorder. Converting unused space into a community resource that's both environmentally beneficial and economically viable. What inspired this vision? Jack considered the question. It wasn't initially a grand vision, he admitted. It started with a boy who wanted to design a vertical garden for his mother's flower shop. As Jack explained the evolution of the project, from Noah's initial design to the gradual acquisition of the adjacent property, from community fundraising to the establishment of the education center, he found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The first 6 months after finding Noah had been a delicate balancing act, establishing shared custody arrangements, introducing Noah to Sophie, a tentative reunion that had blossomed into a genuine sibling bond, navigating the legal complexities of Noah's identity, all while building his new relationship with Olivia, from friendship to something deeper. Jack had indeed stepped down as CEO of Whitman Innovations, remaining only as a board member and strategic advisor. The decision had shocked the business world, but felt entirely right to him. He'd channeled his entrepreneurial energy into smaller local projects, starting with the expansion of Bloom and Grow. Your background is in tech, not urban agriculture, Amelia noted. That's quite a pivot. Jack smiled. Life rarely moves in a straight line. Sometimes the most meaningful paths are the ones we never planned to take. And your partner in this venture is also your personal partner, correct? Olivia Martinez. My wife, yes, Jack corrected, the word still bringing a surge of happiness after 18 months of marriage. The botanical haven is as much her vision as mine. More so, really. I just provided the business structure. She's the heart of it. As if summoned by her name, Olivia appeared in the cafe doorway, clipboard in hand. Even in work clothes, jeans, boots, and a soil-smudged shirt, she took Jack's breath away. She caught his eye and smiled, raising her eyebrows in a silent question. He nodded, indicating the interview was going well. And there's a foundation connected to the haven, correct? Amelia continued. The Ethan Project? Yes, Jack confirmed, his expression growing more serious. The Ethan Project supports families of missing children and helps reconnect families separated by trafficking and other circumstances. We provide resources, psychological support, and in some cases, funding for private investigations. He didn't add that the foundation had been instrumental in uncovering the truth about Noah's kidnapping, a carefully planned abduction by a ring that specialized in children from wealthy families. The full story had emerged gradually over the past 2 years, each revelation processed carefully with Noah's therapist. The knowledge was still painful, but Noah had shown remarkable resilience, supported by the unconventional but loving family that had formed around him. That must be personally meaningful, given your own experience, Amelia observed. Jack nodded. We were fortunate. Not every family gets a second chance. The interview continued, touching on the environmental impact of the haven, its educational programs for underprivileged youth, and plans for expansion to other neighborhoods. Throughout, Jack emphasized the collaborative nature of the project, the community involvement, the partnerships with local businesses, the volunteer network that had formed organically. One last question, Amelia said, as she gathered her notes. You walked away from a billion-dollar company to sell flowers and grow vegetables in Brooklyn. Do you ever regret it? Jack laughed. Not for a moment. Some might see it as stepping down, but I see it as stepping into a richer life. He glanced through the window, where Noah and Lily were now helping younger children plant seedlings. Success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in moments that matter. After the journalist departed, Jack joined Olivia by the butterfly garden. How did it go? She asked, slipping her hand into his. Well, I think, though she seemed baffled by my career choices. Olivia smiled. The great Jack Whitman, reduced to community gardening. Elevated to community gardening, he corrected, pressing a kiss to her temple. They watched as Noah patiently demonstrated proper planting technique to a small girl with pigtails. At 12, he'd grown taller, his features increasingly resembling Jack's, though his mannerisms often echoed Olivia's thoughtful gentleness. The dual influence of both parents evident in the remarkable young person he was becoming. Sophie's coming for dinner, Olivia reminded him. She wants to show Noah her college acceptance letters. Jack nodded. His relationship with his daughter had healed gradually over the past 2 years. Initially wary of his dramatic life changes, Sophie had eventually embraced the expanded family, finding in Olivia a supportive female presence different from but complementary to her mother, Rebecca. Rebecca herself had moved on, remarrying a year ago. While she and Jack would never be close, they'd established a cordial relationship centered on their shared children. She visited Noah monthly, another thread in the complex tapestry of connections that had formed. Dad! Olivia! Noah called, waving them over. Come see what we planted. They crossed to the children's garden where Noah proudly showed them newly planted sunflower seeds. These will grow taller than me by August, he explained to his rapt audience of younger children, and then they'll feed the birds all fall. He's a natural teacher, Olivia murmured. Like his mother, Jack replied. Noah beamed at their praise, then turned back to his students. Jack was struck, as he often was, by the miracle of this moment. Standing beside the woman he loved, watching the son he'd lost and found again share knowledge with the next generation. A simple scene that represented everything he'd gained by losing his former life. Later that evening, the family gathered around the dining table in the apartment above the shop, expanded now to include the adjacent space, though still modest by Jack's former standards. Sophie was there, proudly displaying her acceptance to Columbia's environmental science program. Lily, now 11 and developing into a talented artist, showed off sketches for a mural she'd been commissioned to paint at the local library. Noah recounted the day's activities at the Haven, his passion for the project evident in every word. "I was thinking," he said during a lull in the conversation, "about the foundation." Jack set down his fork. "The Ethan Project, what about it?" Noah hesitated. "I know it's named after, well, me, or who I was. But I've been thinking maybe we could change it." "To what?" Olivia asked gently. "The Noah-Ethan Project," he suggested. "Because I'm both, aren't I? And it's about bringing different parts of families together." Jack felt his throat tighten with emotion. They'd come so far from that rainy day in the park 2 years ago, Noah acknowledging and integrating his dual identity, the families blending in ways none of them could have imagined. "I think that's perfect," he managed. Later, after the ISU, children had retired to their rooms and Sophie had returned to her mother's home. Jack and Olivia stood on the balcony, looking out over the Haven. Solar-powered lights illuminated the pathways, creating a magical landscape of plants and possibilities. "Did you ever imagine this?" Olivia asked, leaning against him. "When you were sitting on that park bench in the rain?" Jack shook his head. "I couldn't have dreamed it. I was at rock bottom, or so I thought. But it turns out that what felt like an ending was really a beginning. A man lost everything, only to find what truly matters," Olivia teased, mimicking a movie trailer voice. Jack laughed, pulling her closer. "Sounds cliché when you put it that way." "The best truths often do," she replied, growing serious. "Jack, do you remember what you said when you first proposed the Haven, about flowers and people?" He nodded. "That both need the right conditions to thrive. Good soil, clean water, adequate space, but also adversity, the right kind of challenge that forces deeper roots and stronger stems." "You were right," Olivia said softly. "Look at Noah, look at all of us. The challenges we faced brought us here together." Jack thought of the long path, the loss of his son, the corporate scandal, the false accusations, the fall from grace. That had led him to that Brooklyn park. Had any of it not happened exactly as it did, he wouldn't be standing here now with this extraordinary woman, their blended family sleeping peacefully nearby, a community project flourishing below. "I used to believe success was about control," he mused. "Controlling markets, controlling outcomes, controlling my environment. Now I understand it's about adaptation, about finding beauty in the unexpected." Olivia smiled up at him. "Like flowers growing through concrete." "Exactly like that." As they stood wrapped in each other's arms, overlooking the garden they'd created together, Jack reflected on the journey from that rain-soaked bench to this moment of contentment. He'd lost a fortune but gained a family. He'd surrendered power but discovered purpose. In the end, what had seemed like his greatest defeat had become his most profound victory. The Noah-Ethan Project would go on to help dozens of families reunite, while the Brooklyn Botanical Haven would inspire similar initiatives across the city. Whitman Innovations would continue to thrive under new leadership, though Jack would maintain his position on the board, bringing a more humanistic perspective to corporate decisions. But Jack's true legacy wouldn't be measured in corporate achievements or even community projects. It would live in the bonds formed in adversity, strengthened through love, and nurtured with the same care they gave to the most delicate blooms in their garden. "We should go in," Olivia murmured after a long, comfortable silence. "Early day, tomorrow." Jack nodded but held her a moment longer, savoring the simple perfection of the present. "Have I told you today how grateful I am? For that rainy day? For your courage in opening your home to a stranger? For everything that followed?" Olivia smiled. "Only twice. You're slipping." "Well then," he said, kissing her softly, "let me say it again. Thank you for helping me find my way back to what matters." Together they turned from the balcony, back toward the warm light of home. leaving the garden to grow beneath the watchful Brooklyn stars.